welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's largest platform for entrepreneurs. If it matters to you, it matters to us. We bring together India's biggest experts on this platform right here on the show to answer your questions and queries. Tonight and all of this week, we continue focusing on the logistics space, bringing together experts from this industry to really address some of your concerns about what the way forward is looking like, what are the top challenges, and learning from these entrepreneurs and experts themselves. Let me then introduce who we have joining this panel tonight. First up, 17Jun21, CEO and co-founder Shiplight. Siddharth Agarwal, Vice President, Head of Strategy and Planning at Ecom Express. Sameer Bhatnagar, Partner at KPMG. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. I want to get a sense first up from all three of you by way of opening comments, the pandemic, COVID, 2020-21 so far, personally, professionally, what it has been like for you?
I'm Siddharth. I'm the Vice President for Corporate Strategy at Ecom Express. We deliver e-commerce parcels to about 27,000 ports, next one to India Post, and the largest by far by coverage in India.
Okay, I would like to ask both our entrepreneurs, very briefly, if you could, for the sake of our viewers and benefit of our viewers, just talk very briefly about what your businesses do. Sugam, to you first. Shiplight, could you very briefly describe the business model for our viewers?
Shiplight is a logistics platform. We provide all kinds of businesses to, enable them to fulfill their shipping needs and, reach across India.
So that the Ecom Express, then, if you could also answer that question in terms of the business and what the impact has been, even as more and more businesses are clearly looking at the organized retail space. What have things been like for you?
It's been a roller coaster, Sunanda. When the pandemic hit, the lockdown was imposed and all the deliveries were shut down for a month and a half, and nobody knew what it's going to look like. And as it started opening up, we saw an influx of inquiries to the business. Every single business wanted to come online. Previously, before the pandemic, the getting online was on the drawing board for most SMEs and even bigger companies. And as soon as the pandemic struck, it became a reality to get online and, to digitize the sales channel and the supply chain infrastructure.
Operationally and logistically, the very nature of the business, the very nature of the consumer has changed. So, Sameer, this question is to you. Just talk us through what some of those biggest changes have been, because a lot of businesses, like I was just discussing, are clearly moving towards the organized retail, organized logistics space more and more. So what have some of those biggest changes really looked like?
Regarding the industry, yes, as Sugam mentioned, the first lockdown really created a significant disruption for various kind of logistics businesses. And I think we need to differentiate between what was conventional logistics versus the e-commerce or the home delivery kind of business. So I think there's been a difference in the way these two segments were impacted. And the first segment, which was to do with industrial logistics, a lot of stoppages, etc., came up. But then I think very quickly people evolved to kind of meet the demands of the lockdown and the different supply chain disruptions. And people learned and looked at a lot of advent of technology, as well as bringing in new collaboration with different and new probably supply chain partners, leading to the growth in various companies which started offering solutions to the new normal. The e-commerce boom, of course, and the home delivery really took a significant increase. And I think what's happened is, if I take care of the first and the second wave coming to this year, given the situation which happened the last year, this year, first of all, we've not seen a nationwide lockdown which happened. And secondly, organizations were better prepared. So what you can see is that when the lockdowns were announced in whichever cities, the people, the customers, as well as the industry responded a lot more quickly and were able to almost ensure steady operations. Of course, during the peak of the pandemic in some cities, I can probably say that there were a spike in demands and there was a challenge in delivery. But per se, the industry was better ready And I think it's been because the industry evolved very quickly. And that's not just the entrepreneurs or the technologies which came in, but also the associate ecosystem. I think it's always an ecosystem approach, and the ecosystem came together.
So, since we talked about the nature of the business, a lot of people, not just businesses, moving online for the very first time, buying everything from, the big purchases to just daily essentials. How did the industry really respond to the sudden surge in terms of demand when it comes to how things had to move and move really quickly? One or two things that you think from an industry point of view that really worked out?
The lockdown was all encompassing, and a lot of labor would have gone back to their hometowns. For Ecom Express, majority of our workforce is on our rolls and was 97% plus were at their hometowns. So as soon as the e-commerce platform started accepting orders, even the supply kind of ramped up very quickly. A lot of sellers who were initially selling offline were forced to go online. So they kind of signed up on these e-commerce platforms. Number two, obviously, when you're recovering from a pandemic and suddenly there's a lot of pent-up demand, the orders shot through the roof. So the entire industry had to quickly ramp up the availability of the manpower, right, to be able to support the logistics. So that's what we did. I think on a macro level, when we see about 3.4% of overall retail used to be on e-commerce, and we've seen a permanent shift in shopping behavior, where close to 5 to 6% of the retail now happens through e-commerce. And I think this is a permanent shift because if I think of my grandfather or other people of that age, initially they were hesitant. But now I think it's been a change in their behavior and they're sticking to that. So my advice to entrepreneurs out there is to please embrace e-commerce, to sign up, whether it's creating your own platforms or using us for logistics and other enabling platforms, to embrace this channel openly and start selling online.
One of the things that you just mentioned, and you were talking about labor, so I want us to broad base it and talk about the industry, not necessarily your company or your business. The fact that a lot of labor, migrated back to their hometowns during at least the first wave. Could you talk about the impact from an industry point of view that really had on your business, and how did the logistics industry sort of manage the sudden change or shift?
So Sunanda, Ecom Express, thankfully 97% of our people were here. Most of the other players in the market who rely on gig workers. That is where the gig workers were not assured of a fixed salary, and that's why in their fear of not being able to take care of their families, they went back. In our case, we kind of assured people that we would continue paying them their salaries, and majority of them were here. For the remaining 2-3%, they expressed their intention to come back, but because of localized lockdowns and red zones, they could not. We patiently waited for them, and within 2-3 weeks, all of them were back.
We are a technology player in the logistics segment, and we enable businesses with technology. Once the lockdown happened, we saw businesses adopting to this change in a very swift manner. Like Siddharth rightly said, there was no choice, and businesses were forced to adopt to technology to serve the demand, the influx of demand that came in immediately after the lockdown. And like you rightly said, from groceries to medicine to every sector saw that growth in the orders. The e-commerce platform saw that growth in the orders. It was on us to enable the e-commerce players to fulfill that growth. We saw our customers grow 2 times, 3 times, even more. A lot of customers grew even more, and it pushed us to innovate more, to help them, make their supply chain more efficient, to deliver the orders faster. And we see in e-commerce logistics specifically, we see very strong demand for coming in for warehousing and fulfillment, so that the inventory moves closer to the demand centers. And we also see a lot of demand, in terms of technology for return prevention and return reductions. Then we see a lot of demand coming in after the pandemic to ship through the retail outlets.
I think let me again say that there are 2 segments. One, you have these e-commerce where players are looking at delivering to an end customer. On the other side, you've got industrial logistics. So industrial logistics with efficiency, moving to standardization, more automation, etc. Right? And that's where, whether you talk about warehouses, you're talking about trucking, and even the people who are running the supply chain. And as digitization goes, not only from, let's say, the platform, but back into the operations of a company's own internal operations, like scheduling your truck, scheduling your driver, scheduling your staff, and rostering. digitization has to go all that way, and hence the staff of any logistics company, be it a small or a large logistics company, they have to upskill in terms of understanding how technology works and how they can use technology to innovate for their specific reasons. A technology which works for one person may not work. That's one part. On the other side, when we talk about e-commerce, then the delivery guy is actually substituting the role of the retail salesperson by being a point of sale and experience for the customer. Now, if the delivery guy comes and he just is not very polite or appealing to the customer, it leaves a bad aftertaste, which affects not just the logistics brand but also the company which you ordered from. So when we talk about the logistics industry, in both these segments, the upskilling in terms of orientation towards customer service, the ability to handle new generation digital tools and equipment, and upskilling is very, very important. So I think it's something which is different skills, but logistics is not just about moving things, but they are also going ahead into customer experience.
Gentlemen, I have to take a quick break. We're back in just a moment. Welcome back with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. All of this week, we are bringing you a special focus as far as logistics is concerned, talking about the impact that COVID has had and what the way forward is looking like. So since we've spoken about people who are coming online for the first time, how did you as an industry, and this is open to all three of you, handhold the consumer who's coming online for the first time? You know, because they're understanding technology, they're understanding payment gateways, they're trying to understand, you know, how to buy, etc. How did you as an industry respond to that?
So I think one of the things which we've seen is the development of regional apps and regional languages and chatbots, for example, which are becoming more and more friendly with the help of artificial intelligence and all the backends going in. So that depending on the profile of consumer, the questions which come and integrating different kind of chat messages. So I think that's one of the things which is happening, which will enable people to use it. And it's a process of continuous evolution as the interfaces become simple as far as retail consumer is concerned. As far as the SME industry is concerned, as Sugam was talking about, people who want to ship a couple of parcels of their, handicraft or something like that, and they want to come into the platform. Yes, for them, education and creating awareness from them by using a mix of hybrid channels, some amount of physical selling to introduce them is something which would probably need to be done for the smaller towns and rural places as they become comfortable with technology.
So Sunanda, in terms of the penetration itself, right, if you see the basic enablers, whether it's smartphones with internet, I think Geo greatly solved that. If you talk about logistics, we cover 27,000 pin codes already. So the basic enablers have been there. What the new age startups are doing right now is for those who don't necessarily have a smartphone with internet or those who have not had the confidence. You have social commerce websites springing up. If you would see Meesho, Glow Road, Shop 101, here you have someone else kind of ordering on your behalf, get the product to you. Going forward, I think, as Samir mentioned, making things more vernacular, more apps, not just, let's say, vernacular catalogs, but the entire ecosystem, vernacular support, vernacular service, all of those things which make the audience, the non-English-speaking audience, shop on these platforms, I think would just help that push further.
So I think everyone agrees on the mobile first approach, right? That the approach has to be mobile first, and I would just like to add on that it's not just the consumer, Sunanda. We also need to enable the businesses in the small towns and cities of India, and it has been a we are focused on that the supply is not concentrated from the metros or the big cities only, and we have enabled the pickups and selling from the smaller towns as well.
And you would see, Suranda, a lot of other businesses that are coming into the fold, whether it's the likes of your Dukaan, OK Shop, for small sellers to shop, to kind of get their catalog online and to help them reach out to the masses. So I think all three of us agree that it has to be digital first, more and more tools and solutions to cater to the smaller sellers and consumers alike.
So looking forward to 23 and the rest of this fiscal, your advice for small businesses in terms of what perhaps is that one thing that you think will definitely hold out and definitely survive?
I think number one would be really taking care of your employees. We owe it to our 40,000 frontline workers who are going out day in, day out to deliver parcels. So we've come with a whole bunch of initiatives for their safety and security. Whether it is, we bought about 100 oxygen concentrators for them to make it available to them and their families. There's an e-com cares program that we launched so that for 2 years we would continue paying their salary for bereaved members of a family. We would take care of the education of their children up to class 12 and also provide employment to next of kin and a whole bunch of similar initiatives along those lines. So first, I think taking care of your employees and their families so that they feel secure and they continue to operate. And I think number two is really pressure testing your business, coming out with business continuity practices, right? Like in our case, there are times when one hub would stop operating because it fell into a containment zone. So then there are entire playbooks that we've designed over time to ensure that the parcels that were destined for location A move to location B and the business goes ahead. So I think similarly, my advice to all the businesses out there would be to think of every element in the value chain of your business, whether it's the remote working of your employees, of your operations, your manufacturing, manpower. Just take a very, very deep look at everything and see what would be the alternatives if one leg were to fail.
Every business needs to look at every point, whether be it the sales channel, be it the support channel, and taking care of customers other than the employees. So what we are trying to do here, Sunanda, at Shiplight is that we have for our customers, when the pandemic hit, a small example would be when the zoning came in. There was a red zone and an orange zone and a green zone. So we gave that visibility on the platform to the businesses that this is the red zone and this is the green zone, that where you can ship and where you cannot ship. So we enabled them to manage the supply chain efficiently and hold up the red zone orders and ship the green zone orders. Similarly, this is one thing that we are planning to continue to do to enable them to run their business efficiently. And I think that every business should be looking at digitizing most aspects of the business. I think that is the real cushion that every business needs to have for this year and maybe years to come as well.
So yes, so I think I'll pick up on the two things. One which Siddharth mentioned about business continuity, or what we call resilience, and I think what Shubham mentioned about technology. The whole point about technology that as you scale up, or even at a certain scale of operation, technology changes quite frequently, and technology can be expensive, especially for small businesses. And similarly, when you talk about resilience, large networks have a resilience because of scale and size. You can have redundancy and alternate hubs, etc. But when you talk about smaller businesses, scaling up technology and keeping in pace with new technology and digitization, which requires investments as well as resilience. Something that the industry should look at is how they can collaborate at an industry level. They might be competitors, but how do you come together to collaborate so that as a larger network, you can all operate more efficiently no matter where the disruption is. A large part of logistics is still physical goods moving through physical assets. So while technology is important, working with the brick and mortar associates is equally important and upskilling them. And that's why I think collaboration between the different ecosystems is really important for all of it to work. And the second part is standardization. So as we talk about tier 2 and tier 3 cities, the standardization of the entire logistics chain in terms of whether you're talking about pallets, parcels, standardized packaging, standardized labeling. If you have to work across different service providers, the greater the standardization, the greater the interoperability, and that's really where you can get better efficiency of scale, especially if you're a small and medium business, because you're trying to latch on to a larger logistics ecosystem. So that's my advice when we talk about resilience and technology.
All right, gentlemen, pleasure as always having you here on the show. For those of you who've tuned in, that's all we could manage to pack into this panel. But if you have any questions for us, you want to reach out to today's experts, or you just want to give us any feedback, do remember that you can always write to us, our email ID, as well as our other details coming up on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. Stay home. Stay safe.